Hello everybody. Today we're going to be talking about slope and rate of change. And what slope is it is the measure of a line's rise, the distance it travels up or down the y-axis, divided by its run, which is the distance it travels across the x-axis. And it's measured from left to right. Okay, remember we talked about positive means going upward from left to right on a graph, and negative means going downward from left to right on a graph as well. Alright, the rate of change is the rate of changes the y or output values divided by the change in the x or input values. Alright, so we're going to talk about this thing called the slope formula, and what that is, it's a formula that we use when we're trying to identify the slope of a graph or specific two specific points. So for example, we have this point x1 comma y1, and we have the second point x2 comma y2. Alright, so this is the formula that we use. M stands for slope. It is the rise over the run, or the change in y over the change in x. Alright, so if you see here that I highlight in yellow, okay, what's highlighted in yellow is the two y values for each of our points, coming from this number and this number here. The run is a change in x, and that is coming from this number in the first point and the second number in the second point. And again, that's x2 minus x1. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract the two y values together, y2 coming first minus y1, and then divide it by the x values, x2 minus x1, and that will give us our rise over run. Alright, so let's look at some problems together. So here we have two specific points. Okay, find the slope between each pair of points. Okay, it is very important to remember that it does not matter which point you pick to write first. You just have to make sure to keep the x and the y values together for the slope formula, meaning our y values have to be y2 minus y1, and our x values have to be x2 minus x1. Right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to label out each of these numbers as x1, x2, y1, and y2. Alright, so our first value is x1. x1 is here, which is a 1, and our x2 value is the second x in the second point, which is 4. And our y1 value is the second number in our first point, which is 1 again, and our y2 number is the 3 that comes from the second point. Alright, so again, this is x1, this is x2, this is y1, and this is y2. Alright, because we know that we write an ordered pair as x, comma, y. X always comes first in the ordered pair and y comes second, and an easy way to remember this is x comes before y in the alphabet. So always read it as x first and then y second in an ordered pair. Alright, now we're going to use our slope formula. Our slope formula tells us that m, which is our slope, is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So now that we have all our numbers labeled out here on the left side, we're going to use these four numbers and plug it in wherever we see y2, y1, x2, and x1. So our y2 value is 3. So we're going to start with 3 and subtract it by our y1 value, which is 1. And then we're going to divide by x2 minus x1. Here's x2, which is 4, and x1 is 1. Okay, now we're just going to simply subtract 3 minus 1 for the numerator, which is 2, over 4 minus 1 in the denominator is 3. So our slope for this first problem would be 2/3. Okay, let's look at number 2. Again, label x1, x2, y1, and y2. Okay, looking at this ordered pair, the first one we have x1, here's x2, this is y1, and this is y2. Now that I have all of my numbers labeled, I can put them here as x1 is equal to -2, x2 is equal to 10, y1 is equal to 4, and y2 is equal to -2. Now setting up my slope formula again, which starts with m stands for slope, m equals y2 minus y1. My y2 is 4, sorry, my y2 is -2. My y1 is 4, my x2 is 10, minus my x1 is -2. Okay, now when I do out the math at the top, I get -2 minus 4, which just becomes -6, over 10 minus a -2. When we have two negatives like this that are together, this just becomes a positive number. Now we can add them together to get 12. Okay, the last thing we want to do is we want to simplify. Always simplify this. So -6 over 12 ends up being -1/6, which is our slope for number 2. Alright, so now I want you guys to try numbers 3 and 4 as practice problems, and then you can move on to the next part.